they have a business and it's kind of fallen off the cliff for whatever reason, and they just
Mhm.
don't know how to reboot it. So I think if we ran ourselves a little challenge and put it out
Mhm.
there, we're going to help you reboot your business that it would
Yeah.
go real well. So give me some
Yeah.
thoughts on that.
Yeah, and I think there comes those moments in business where it feels like whatever was working before ain't working, or it just doesn't feel like it's giving you the same passion, same energy. I mean, I've had this happen a number of times in my business, right? And I'm a big fan. There's a show, we've talked about this before. It's called The Pivot, right? Ryan Clark, Fred Taylor, and Channing Crowder, former NFL players that are now
Oh, the
doing
Pivot
podcasts on a whole
Podcast?
bunch of things. Yeah, the Pivot podcast. And that idea, like they talk about that all the time. What's the biggest pivot? And pivoting, a lot of people feel like, it's quitting or it's shutting down. No, pivoting is just realizing I'm going this direction and I need to move so that I can get to where I'm trying to go. I've got to change direction. And I think when you're thinking about a rebooting your business, there's a couple of questions that everybody has to ask. And for me, it's been, and you and I've talked about this over the years. It's
Mhm,
been a couple of times, right, where I had to define what did success look like,
mhm.
right? Because there's nobody else can tell you what you should be doing in your business, right? And you have to be very clear about what is the purpose. What are you doing your business for? What is your goal? What are you trying to get out of it? And a lot of business owners I found get stuck because they don't know how their business fits with their family, fits with their aspirations and their personal time and all the rest of that. They know how the business kind of helps that or assists it, but they don't know how to align those things. And so I think that's one of the first things when you're looking at a business reboot, you got to really figure out, what does success look like? So
This business podcast, the Two Business Guys Mastermind, uncovers for you secrets and share tips and tricks to entrepreneurship as they mastermind on how to have startup, operational, and overall business success so that you can go on to get better results. Enjoy. So, Rob, I think one of the biggest problems people are having is they have a business and it's kind of fallen off the cliff for whatever reason, and they just
Mhm.
don't know how to reboot it. So, I think if we ran ourselves a little challenge and put it out
Mhm.
there, we're going to help you reboot your business that it would
Yeah.
go real well. So, give me some thoughts
Yeah.
on that.
Yeah, and I think there comes those moments in business where it feels like whatever was working before ain't working, or it just doesn't feel like it's giving you the same passion, same energy. I mean, I've had this happen a number of times in my business, right? And I'm a big fan. There's a show, we've talked about this before. It's called The Pivot, right? Ryan Clark, Fred Taylor, and Channing Crowder, former NFL players that are now
Oh, the
doing
Pivot
podcasts on a whole
Podcast?
bunch of things. Yeah, the Pivot podcast. And that idea, like they talk about that all the time. What's the biggest pivot? And pivoting, a lot of people feel like, it's quitting or it's shutting down. No, pivoting is just realizing I'm going this direction and I need to move so that I can get to where I'm trying to go. I've got to change direction. And I think when you're thinking about a rebooting your business, there's a couple of questions that everybody has to ask. And for me, it's been, and you and I've talked about this over the years. It's
Mhm,
been a couple of times, right, where I had to define what did success look like,
mhm.
right? Because there's nobody else can tell you what you should be doing in your business, right? And you have to be very clear about what is the purpose. What are you doing your business for? What is your goal? What are you trying to get out of it? And a lot of business owners I found get stuck because they don't know how their business fits with their family, fits with their aspirations and their personal time and all the rest of that. They know how the business kind of helps that or assists it, but they don't know how to align those things. And so I think that's one of the first things when you're looking at a business reboot, you got to really figure out, what does success look like? So if your business goes well, one of my favorite questions, if you could snap your fingers and make anything happen, what would it look like?
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah. So I
And
think that's the first piece that I would say. People got to look at what are you trying to do? What does success look like? Because sometimes we get so right, we get our head down and we just working
mhm,
and we forget where we're trying to go, what we're trying to do. And you
yeah,
you say this, you said this before. I love it. It's like, is your ladder up against the right wall
yeah. I've
or up
actually
against the right building?
been doing a lot of coaching on this lately, and I came across a book that had a very aggressive title, and it was perfect for what I think you have to do to your business first. And it's you have to unfuck your business. right? Now,
Yeah, I
this
saw that
title of
one.
this book, it was like, your life, unf your life.
Hmm.
And I said,
Yeah.
and then no sooner do I think about how the reboot begins is by looking
Hmm.
at how it's effed, right?
Yes.
How you have effed
Yes.
your business. Now, I do a coaching session recently, and this is how this person have has effed their business. And when I
Hmm.
think about the reboot, you have to uneff it, right? For the very first thing they did was put a whole bunch of cost on it. First thing they did
Yep.
was got a building,
Yep. I've been down that
right?
road before.
Got a building and then got like, thousands of dollars in rent. And in
Hmm.
our session, it was about, okay, now how do I go make money?
Right.
Well, what? Wait. Now, there's nothing wrong with being incentivized by threat of, becoming poor because of your business or
Right.
whatever,
Going bankrupt. Right.
right? Going bankrupt, it not working, all of these different things. And if so, on one hand, I get it. That's the power. But also, you talk about it's very difficult to spend something up when you're under the stress of
Oh
whether I'm
yeah.
going to
Yeah.
eat.
Definitely.
Again, so uneff your business by getting this big old albatross of costs off
Hmm.
your business, right?
Yeah.
Let's get
Yeah.
that burn rate down to almost
Yeah.
zero.
And realistically, looking at that burn rate, like is such an important thing. And again, I am not only the president of the Hair Club for Men, I am also a member. Right. Like this is something that I have dealt with. Right. Spending money in an attempt to grow the business, in an attempt to show that you have faith in it. There's a whole bunch of reasons why we do the things that we do as business owners. And I think that the first thing, to your point, when you're looking back at your business and you're looking at it and trying to say, we want to uneff it, right? You've got to look back. Tony Robbins talks about it this way. He says, you got to see reality for what it is, not worse than what it is. Right. Don't start shaming yourself. Don't start guilting yourself. Don't start
Sure.
shooting on
Yeah.
yourself. Oh, I shouldn't have done that. No, no, no.
Yeah.
That's not the point. The whole thing, and Maya Angelou says this quote, I love it. She says, give yourself grace for what you didn't know when you didn't know it. Right.
That's good.
At the time that you put that burden on your business, at the time you messed your business up, you obviously didn't know that it was going to mess your business up. You wouldn't have done it.
Yeah.
So like
Yeah.
recognize that reality. And now that's why we talk about pivoting. Like realize that it's not working now. Don't worry about the past, whether it was working in the past, whether it was doing something for you then, but it's not working now. And now you can make a decision to do something different. And when you do that different thing, right, you got to know where you're going. That's where defining success comes in and figuring out what good looks like for you. But then the third thing, when you look at what you need to change, you also need to be able to take from the past the positive things. Don't throw the baby out with the bathwater,
Mhm.
right? And so often, like I remember I was coaching one of my clients, and they own a restaurant, and we were able to go through and figure out how to reduce about $60,000 a year in costs, fixed costs for them. But the way that it went was initially he was like, well, maybe I don't need this and maybe I don't need that. And it was like, wait a minute, what are you currently spending that money for? First
Mhm.
question. What
Mhm.
is it doing for your business? Second question. Third question then became, how do we get the same thing or better for less money?
Mhm.
When
Mhm.
we ask that question, instead of how do we eliminate it, because that's where a lot of people mess up. They think about just eliminating stuff. But if you just if you can cut to the bone, you can cut to the quick, you can cut too much, right? And here's another thing: nobody's ever saved themselves rich,
Yeah. I've heard that before. Yeah.
right?
Sure.
Like it's not how it works. Now, saving will keep you from being poor, but it will not make you rich. So, understanding what you're saving and why you're saving, so that you can deploy that money somewhere else, starts with what am I getting from this, and what are the options that are available to me. So, for example, in this case, right, he had fryers, and so he had to get the grease, get new grease in, old grease
Mhm.
out
Mhm.
on a
Mhm.
weekly basis. And he was spending probably $1,000 a week getting this done.
Ooh, that's a lot.
Exactly. Right. What he was able to find was a process where he could filter the oil, and then he would only have to get it transferred out
Okay.
once a month instead of once a week.
Oh man.
And so
That
that
saves
filter
3,000, right?
that saves 3,000, and that filter was only $300, and that was a one time cost.
$2,700 savings.
Exactly. Right. And that's $2,700 times 12.
We'll see. That's how you start to F your business and rebooting it. Now, I want us to, introduce the idea of we're gonna be doing a challenge on this. Now, y'all stay tuned for when that challenge is gonna be on the rebooting your business challenge. And we're gonna actually have cash giveaway for the best reboot. Now, what we're going to
Mhm.
ask is that take a look at some of our videos, right? And we may have a list of videos that we kind of think are fire videos that'll get you a leg up. Two things we want to do is you being able to leverage what you've learned from what we've talked about and then reboot that business based on those principles, right?
Mhm.
Now, that's the whole key. Based on those principles, what would you do to reboot your business and get it back to wherever it is you want it to be? We also are standing aside and saying you could always send an email to us. Maybe we shouldn't even tell them that part. You could DM us and say, hey, what would you do here? It's like, well, based on what we've talked about in some of those other
Mhm.
videos, what did you
Mhm.
learn? What did you
Mhm.
apply? And then can
Mhm.
you prove to us that you applied those things in such a way that it successfully reboots your business? This is the challenge this is the little bit of the commercial, y'all. But there's something else that Rob had talked about earlier, right? We were talking
Mhm.
about um, a book that kind of struck home for him. And I want to bring that into the conversations about
Yeah.
who you are in that business. When you reboot it, you
Mhm.
may have to discover some things, right? And then you were talking
Mhm.
about what's this guy's name?
Yeah, Patrick Lencioni.
Patrick
And
Lencioni's book.
yeah, so the book is six types of working genius. Here we go. Six types of working genius by Patrick Lencioni. And one of the things that it talks about, and that I think is so important for business owners to realize, is there are certain things that, right, you wear all the hats in the business, especially when you're a solopreneur when you first start out. So it's not that you can't do everything in the business. Some of you all can't, and that's actually a benefit to you because you don't get bogged down doing that stuff. But for most beginning business owners, you can do and do accomplish everything in a
Mhm,
business.
mhm,
But there are certain things that drain you and really are heavy lift. There are other things that you can do and you're consistent with and everything's good. And there are other things that you do in your business that you just love. It's like, oh man, every day when I get to
mhm,
do that, this is amazing. This is where I want to be.
mhm.
And what Patrick Lencioni talks about is instead of you being stuck and constantly going through the roller coaster of the things you like and the things you don't like, what you want to do is you want to try to start developing and finding the team members that can help you do that. And that book behind me right there, let me see where I move my head. There we go. That book behind me right there, Who Not How. Ben Hardy and Dan Sullivan talk about this, right? Dan Sullivan is one of my coaches. One of the things he talks about is you want to find who's to do the things that are not in your zone of genius, that are not in
Right,
the space that gives you
right.
energy. Because when you're working in your space that gives you energy, you're actually exponentially more productive than when you're working in the space that drains you. And one of the tools that Dan Sullivan has, and this is what Randy and I were talking about, because I realized where I'm really great at is kind of ideating and thinking about
Mhm,
all the things that could be coming up with a new future and getting ideas and putting things together and assembling them. And then I'm really good also at getting people excited about where we're going and how we're going to get there and all the rest of that. The piece that I had to get good at as a CEO, because I came from being right a number two, I came from being somebody who actually took other people's ideas and made them work.
mhm,
I came from being a place where I was the person that ran the team, managed the teams, made them better, made everything work because I was able to take that vision that they had and get everybody excited about it. But
mhm,
as a CEO, it's different. As a CEO, I've got a billion things going on in my head and trying to filter that down so that they can take this one thing and go work on it. I realized that was a skill that I had to work on as a CEO. And so there's a tool that Dan Sullivan has called the impact filter. And I highly recommend you all to start to go look at it online or find it where you can, because what it does is it helps you to articulate your visions in a compact, concise way where people can take it. There's a Bible verse that says, "Write the vision, make it plain,
yeah.
so that the hero can run with it." Right? I was doing a great job of writing the vision. I wasn't making it plain though, so we was having problems.
And I will attest to that. I've been on the other end of some of Rob's visions, and I was like, bro, this is complicated. I'm out. And one of the things, Rob, I wanted to say too is that used to now we're giving you some insight into stuff that we've done, right? And we've had
Mm-hmm.
to reboot, reinvent, and do different things. Mine
Mm-hmm.
was, I got it. I got time. I can do it, blah, blah, blah. Right. And then I started discovering that that was a sunk cost fallacy. It's like, well, I have put money into this. I'm going to keep it. And then it just doesn't work
Mm-hmm.
because I already spent money into it. And then I'm thinking, well, I got to find a way to make this work. Now, we don't want you to
Mm-hmm.
look at this and go, well, my business is a sunk cost fallacy. We want you to use the tools that we have available to us now to look at this in a whole different way. For
Yeah.
me, it literally meant going to get virtual assistants that did last mile stuff because I can get you
Mm-hmm.
3/4. If this were a marathon that Rob likes to run, I'm running some of it. And then at some point, I'm going to look around and go, you know what? I'm done.
Tag, you're it.
I see I can go get some ice cream over here. I'm out.
Yeah.
So that part became what I had to overcome. And then the
Mm-hmm.
idea that I have already invested whatever it is into this thing was the fallacy that it then should continue. And in certain
Mm-hmm.
cases, it should not. It should
Right.
not. Not your business necessarily, but the process, the
Yeah,
thing that
that
you were doing.
project or whatever you're working on. Yeah.
Yes, we need to reboot it. We need to put it up
Right.
against the proper walls. And I'm telling you, Rob, I'm getting some successes out of some not hard-headed entrepreneurs that I've been working with, not hard-headed
Mm-hmm.
entrepreneurs. It's because I've asked them, listen,
AKA
just
coachable.
do it this way.
Yeah.
Just try it. If it doesn't work, then you can, throw me out and, say that guy's full of canal water and it's over. But just do it this way. See if it works. And I'm telling you, 9 out of 10 times are working. No, I'm thinking it's about 10 out of 10
Mm-hmm.
working.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'll see some of the successes and then I'll say, pour the gas on that. I
Yeah.
just met one
Yeah.
recently. She gave me a big old hug. And I was like, on some level, you want to say, I told you. Right. And then another one just sent me a text. It says, from that one thing, I made $1,250 in 1 week. And she hadn't
There
been
we
making any
go.
money. Why? Because the ladder was up against the wrong wall.
Mm-hmm.
And I
Mm-hmm.
says, put it up against the right wall and then do this.
Exactly.
And then it became spin-off moments. Okay, if that's hot, let me show you based on what you're doing here, what also is hot. And she says, well, I'm gonna
Mm-hmm.
spin that up. Boom.
Yep.
Right. And hers was, she says, the traps are starting to go off. And I kept telling her to set these money traps.
Mm-hmm.
These
Mm-hmm.
things I talked to you about. It says these
Yep.
micro
Yep.
little courses, micro little events, micro little things that are little traps that then bring people into
Right.
your business, right? Digital doorways to dollars, whatever you want to say. I say it different
Mm,
ways, but
yeah.
these traps, she says, boom, they start going off. And I says, now you go collect, right? And everybody
Mm-hmm.
eats. And that's what's
Yes.
happening with her because she listened and did the work. So,
Yeah.
with this reboot, what we're going to be talking about, y'all, keep an eye out for it. I don't know if we're going to do it first quarter of next year or if we're going to, get it in this year or not, but be on the lookout for it. We're going to give you all the opportunities to jump in and win because we're going to have
Mm-hmm.
some cash in your pocket prizes for the
Mm-hmm.
best reboot. And you'll
There
have to
we go.
pitch this reboot. And you have to
Yeah.
tell us, oh, well, I pulled from this video and I was able to do this. Y'all said this, blah, blah, blah. That's the part that we want you to be able to not be on your own,
Yeah.
right? We've given you umpteenth videos to pull from. Pull from them.
Mm-hmm.
Show us the one that worked best for you. Show us the result, and you may become a winner.
There we go.
So, Rob, another thing you had talked about was actually it's coming out of one of your new activities that you have coming up, a
Mm-hmm.
workshop that you've got coming up. Talk to me a little bit
Yeah.
about the concept behind the workshop and why it's not related necessarily to marketing. It's
Mm-hmm.
not
Mm-hmm.
related to, the things that kind of get me all excited,
Yeah. Yeah.
but yet you see the impact. What was that one?
Oh
What's
yeah.
that one?
Yeah. So the one thing that we've built, and I kind of talked to you about this in the first stage of rebooting your business, you got to know what you want. And so oftentimes entrepreneurs get started with their business and they want to build a business, right? That's
Mhm.
great. But then once you've built a business, figuring out what that business is supposed to be, what it's supposed to do, how it's supposed to run with, in harmony with your life rather than taking over your life, right? And so many business owners struggle with this. And so what we did is we put together a 1 day VIP workshop for business owners specifically, which is called Defining Success Workshop, right? So Defining Success VIP workshop for entrepreneurs. And in that workshop, we help business owners to develop a blueprint that really helps them to align everything that they're doing. What are you doing in your private life? What are you doing in your business life? What are you doing and what are you doing it for? So that by the end of that day, they not only understand what they're doing, why they're doing it, how they're doing it, but they have a plan that integrates everything, harmonizes everything. It's kind of like, you know, you got a lot of musical instruments. That's great, but you got to have the musical instruments playing in harmony for you to actually have a good musical piece. And there's a lot of folks that's got, the horn section going crazy, but it's not integrating over here with the piano or with the strings or whatever's going on. And that's the big thing that we're trying to help business owners do. So I'm really excited about that because one of the things that I know a lot of the business owners that I've coached have always come in, and this is one of the things that hit me. That's why I created this program was, am I on the right path? Am I doing the right thing? Am I going the right way? And that question constantly kind of plagues you because here's the dirty little secret about being a business owner. The fact that you can start your own business, most people who do that, you're an achiever. You're able to do lots of things. So it's not a question anymore of can you do it? That's not the thing. The question is, should you be doing this? Right? Because you've got so many options, so many things you can choose from. And so what we help you to do in this workshop is to really get centered back, really get focused on why you're doing what you're doing, and that what you're doing is in alignment, is in the pathway that you're supposed to be on, so that you can walk every day knowing I'm moving towards my destiny, I'm moving in my purpose.
And that's it, everybody. We want you to keep in touch with some of the things we're doing. Put your comments, share some of these things. When you hear something that you know will be a success opportunity for somebody else, share it. We don't mind, right? Or if you say, these dudes, they're full of canal water. They don't know what they're talking about. I'd like to hear that too, because I'm gonna arm wrestle you, and we will prove that we do, right? But whatever. Take some of these lessons right now, pull them apart, right? Even if you're using some of your AI, pull them apart and ask yourself, how can I apply what they just talked about today to my business and go about doing just that? We'd love to hear from you. We'll talk to you next time.